On today's show, James samples 270 supercars. Richard thrashes some spicier minis. And I get sideways in the latest Lamborghini. Hello! Now, don't worry, we have got some minis in the programme as well, but it is Lamborghini's 40th anniversary this year. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have a look at some of the cars they made over the years and do a bit of a tribute to the maddest car company of them all.
This is the origin of Lamborghini as we know it today. More than that, it's where the modern supercar begins. It's the first, the daddy, the Miura. June 1967. That was the day the first Miura arrived in Britain. And just imagine that body shape coming down your high street in 1967. Only the sight of Harold Wilson on LSD could have caused more of a stir.
And as befits the decade that celebrated being young and groovy, youth created the Miura. The man who designed its gorgeous body was just 22.
Think about that. What were you doing at 22? At that age, the cars I was drawing still had guns on them. The engineers behind it were in their 20s too. And the Miura wasn't even an official project, just 7 lads working after hours for the fun of it.
They didn't realise it at the time, but those 7 impetuous young engineers were about to spark a revolution.
Until then, all seriously fast cars had their big, heavy engines here at the front. But the Miura had its V12 here in the middle, setting the template for all future supercars.
They also mounted the engine sideways rather than lengthways to keep the car compact. Mind you, they nicked that idea from the Mini, but we'll let them have that one.
There was other radical stuff that didn't see the light of day. The first design had a 3-seater layout, like a McLaren F1. And it had a glass engine cover, like a Ferrari 360. This did make it, though. The shape of the doors. See? They're supposed to look like the horns of a bull. Nice. So, beautiful and ingenious it may have been, but in terms of driving, you were still at the wheel of a bit of a dog's breakfast. The fuel tank was over the front wheels, so as it ran low on fuel, it went light at the front end, which meant you couldn't steer. Nice touch, that. Keeps you on your toes. The interior is, well, tiny, and every now and again the carburetors would spit petrol onto the hot engine, and the whole thing would go up in flames. Good. It is not an easy car to drive, but it sounds like that.
Lamborghini knew their masterpiece wasn't perfect, and they steadily improved it throughout its life, culminating in this, the SV of 1971. It had a better gearbox, better differential, better tyres, better rear suspension, and these better gold wheels. Do you know what it was? It was better. And like all Miuras, it was the car of choice for a better sort of person. People like Frank Sinatra, Rod Stewart, and this bloke.
That's such a glorious noise.
Jamiroquai frontman JK is a huge Miura fan.
This car was so ahead of its time, you know. You can imagine sitting there in
in a Wolseley 1800 or a TR6 in 1972, and this turns up with the lights, you know, hopefully with Twiggy in it, which would have been delightful. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, I think I'd have fainted. Get your motor running, head out on the highway, take whatever comes my way. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I don't buy cars to speculate. I don't buy cars like these fools, and they hide them away. The kids today don't see them. They'll never know what it's like to see a Lamborghini Miura busting past you at 130, 40 miles an hour. This, to me, shouts out Matchbox car, 1972. There I am on the carpet.
You can remember it.
You know, I mean, that's what it shouts out to
Now
me.
you've got a big
and there
one.
it is. Now I've got a big one.
Jay, I
Right.
did notice there's no window in.
Well, I'll tell you what I did with the window.
Reenact it for us.
I will reenact it.
Go on then. Oh, you closed the door. You mad, impetuous rock star fool. You're
You
asking
know,
for trouble,
I mean, that's
Jay.
rock and roll,
I
hey?
was gonna-
The Miura lived a short life, just 6 years in production, during which time 761 were made, that's all. But it established Lamborghini in massive style.
My journey in the Miura has brought me from Shade JK to Duxford Air Base in Cambridgeshire because the car has a kindred spirit living here. There are certain machines that are so radical, that make such an impact when you see them, that you know things will never be the same again. Machines like this. It's the prototype Concorde. Imagine how people felt the first time this flew overhead. It looked so different, so breathtaking, and the thinking behind it was so fresh that it changed the world. Concorde did it for planes. The Miura did it for supercars. As a car, it was flawed, but as a concept, it was truly a masterpiece.
So, is JK still smarting about his humiliating defeat on our track?
I can't say for sure, but he went very, very fast in his Miura, so...
But you see, that's the thing. I went even faster with Jody the other day. Jody Kidden made 2,000 miles an hour on Concorde, in fact.
Yeah, all right.
So managed to win that one too, which actually brings me on to a good point. What is the best-looking machine ever made by man?
Spitfire.
Spitfire?
Beautiful looking
Anyone
thing.
else got any thoughts? Hold on a minute, say that again.
The Blackbird.
The
SR71.
The SR71, the spy plane. You familiar with that?
Yes,
It is an immensely good-looking thing. What about cars? Come on, best-looking cars then. TVR?
TVR?
Who said TVR? Oh, it's Ray Charles has joined us this week. We think we've worked this one out. 3 best-looking cars ever. Ford GT40.
I do agree with that,
Yes,
actually, yeah.
all nod. Yes, Aston Martin DB7.
Yeah, again, you're right.
What do you mean? Who said no?
Order.
You said no. Why?
Because you're always on about it. You like it too much. You know, it's an Aston and it's Ford, you know, it's...
This is a man with a 2-tone beard who's come along here to tell us about style. Anyway, let's get back to it. My point is DB7, Ford GT40,
Yes.
and this.
I think you're right. Reluctantly,
Yes,
I think you're
thank
right.
you. This. And the reason why it's so graceful, if you look at it in profile, is because it's the exact same shape as an aeroplane's wing, which is another reason why it tends to take off
Yes.
once you get to like
It
80
does.
miles an hour.
It generates its own lift. In fact, remember the Italian job at the beginning of it, the bloke bulldozer? In real life, the car would probably have just flown straight over the bulldozer and missed him.
Probably even right over the mountain.
Another Alp.
So if you were to buy one of these, and you buy one now for how much?
Good SV, the better one, would cost you about 100,000, something like that.
OK, if you were to spend £100,000 on a car like this, you wouldn't really drive it anywhere.
Oh, heavens, no.
What I would do, put it in the garden.
Good idea.
An ornament.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because what's that programme? Gardening Force.
Where they put
what's it
gravel
called?
everywhere.
Yeah, they put gravel. What's it called?
Change it.
Ground Force, that, with Charlie Dimmock's features.
Aye. What?
Anyway, forget the gravel, forget the fountains, get one of these, put it in your garden, look at it.
I think
It's
you're right.
even better to look at in the bushes than a Lightning jet fighter.
And so to the news. Now, I'm sure you're aware on this programme we're not particular fans of the personalised registration number. We don't play golf. However, some people out there do have a handicap, and the DVLA is only too happy to serve them. In fact, they're having an auction of special number plates, and they say they've got something for the music enthusiast. Have a look at this. Now, I'm slightly baffled because I didn't know that drum kits had to be registered, for one thing. And also, I can't quite see the music connection because this number plate is for a bloke called Les who lives somewhere off the B347. The DVLA says that says Beatles. But I'd like to suggest that it just doesn't.
If I were following a car that said B347 Les on it, I wouldn't think, it's Ringo Starr.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we have a look at some of the others that are coming out? And I want you to see if you can guess what they actually say. These have been sold by the DVLA. Look at that.
This I don't get. This I don't, because I can see what it
This was
says.
up for sale for £22,000.
So you have a bit of an embarrassing problem.
Bro, you drive around going,
And you're
my
right.
dicky doesn't work, and I'm spending £22,000 advertising the fact.
I wonder if you can get floppy on one.
Yes,
Might
floppy
be
is
just
what.
as-
You'd be driving a floppy. You'd be driving a car with a big bonnet.
Let's have another one.
Come on, let's have another one. What's that?
There's no iron toast!
Do you want to know? £1,125. And even if it did say toast,
Why do you
and
want
it
toast
doesn't,
on your car?
Toast.
What do you might as well have
What a
broccoli?
stupid word to have on the back of your car.
Blancmange.
What's another one?
Stamps!
That's even
Why do you
more
want-
idiotic. What do you? It doesn't say stamps, but even if it did,
It's just a random elbow. Oh, well, that's very cool.
1,200 quid. Stamps.
1,200
Oh,
quid.
yeah, P147 boy, I've met him.
The point I want to make here is, here we've got a government agency selling us these number plates on the basis that you can tweak around with them to make them say something else. Then you have another government agency with tall hats and plastic shoes booking you for changing your number plate round so it says stamps.
Absolutely right. Welcome to Britain.
Welcome to Britain, everybody. This is the worst country in the world.
Yes.
I've got another example of that. There was a rally last weekend in Britain. It was the final round of the World Rally Championship, and it was won by a man driving a car. These rallies, for those of you who don't know, the idea is you drive as fast as possible round a wood, then you drive on normal roads to the next wood where you drive as fast as possible again. Now, on the roads, you're expected to behave in a responsible fashion. Everywhere else in the world, thousands and thousands and thousands of spectators roll up to watch the cars go through their villages and along the
It's like a
motorways.
fiesta, like a
exactly,
party.
it's a big thing. Britain, okay? What they did in Wales, where the rally was last year, was they sent a police speed trap van down, where they caught, and I've got the report here, they caught 17 drivers, okay, 17 of them, speeding. Some of them were doing 40 miles an hour.
World-class sportsmen come to this country to indulge in a pastime that all over the world is greeted by, oh, marvellous, let's watch.
And
that's
they
what we
send
do.
it out, they go out, and they book you. And do you know something extraordinary? Most of these people went back to their huts in Finland or wherever they come from, okay? Thinking, well, it doesn't really matter, I've been nicked for speeding in England. But oh no. As soon as they came back for this year's event, you're nicked. And they were all in court. This bloke, Loire, okay, who's a Belgian rally driver, he was caught 7 times on the same stretch in the same morning. So they fined him 1,750 quid and gave him a 6-month ban.
And this is the way we welcome world-class sports people.
Welcome, come and play.
What are they going to do
Olympics,
next?
bid, they'll all be standing there in the
Exactly.
swimming pool. That bloke's doing 33
No,
there.
well, with that javelin, offensive weapon, I'll have that.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, I've got a car here. VW are wondering whether to make this. They're scratching their heads thinking, oh, I'm not sure. Well, don't be stupid. Make it. It's got
No.
a V6. It's a we love these cars.
Do you know something interesting about this? Just stop the film there, because the steering wheel, okay, and the pedals move and the seats don't.
Nobody but you would find that too complicated to grasp.
I'm sorry, why do you have, for years, we have seats that move about? It's like this, I don't know, we'll fix the seats in place and then you move the whole dashboard, and that's ridiculous.
I just know you'd end up sitting, I can't work it, my seat
That's like I'm
doesn't
saying
move.
I'm
It's
too
your
far from the
poor-
television, I'll knock my house down and move the whole thing 6 inches nearer to it.
It's your poor, ageing brain can't cope.
what's that thing that you drove last year that was about that big and you loved it?
The Perodua.
Perodua, okay, the Perodua Calisa. He drove one, he absolutely loved it. Well,
It's a
they've
nice
launched
car.
a new car, around about £6,000. We've got a picture of it here. It's called the Canary, okay, sounds like a food blender. They say it's a multi-purpose vehicle. Now, I can see one use for it. You could use it to stop a door banging in the wind. But I'm struggling to think of another use.
You could keep a chicken in it.
Yes?
Just one.
You couldn't put two in, otherwise it would be a battery and it would be illegal, probably.
Yeah. Anyone else got any thoughts?
No, lower the windows by 3 inches all round and it would be a bottle bank.
Yes? Not sure it's going to work as a car, though, which is what I think they've got in mind for it.
That's
Anyway.
a ridiculous idea.
Yeah. But speaking of small cars...
The best-selling car has been announced for, I think
September.
it's September
Yeah.
of this year, right? The best-selling car. I'm
Anyone
not
want
going
to hazard a guess what it was?
It's
the best-selling car in Britain in September. Vectra, wrong. Focus, wrong.
He's just said it. It's the Corsa. What is that saying?
Has anybody here got one?
Somebody said no a bit too quickly then.
There it is. Look, the majesty of it.
You know when they run those adverts for it, what it should say is, show the world you know nothing about cars.
Yeah.
Buy a Vauxhall Corsa. So we thought it would be a good idea tonight, if anybody has inadvertently strayed into the programme from Heartbeat or Monica the Den or whatever depressing thing they're showing on Channel 4, and you're thinking of buying a small car, what should you buy?
Honda Jazz.
Honda, definitely.
Very
Honda
good
Jazz,
pick.
that's pricey too. It's over £10,000, but fantastically
9,000
versatile.
actually.
Is it?
9,000
Whatever,
pounds.
£9,000, £10,000.
Loads of
It is
space in it.
expensive.
Micra, fantastic little car.
The Micra is unbelievably well equipped. You get sort of air conditioning and you get keyless go and things.
It's-
That's
it's
very
got
good.
loads
But
of stuff
actually,
on
my
it.
favourite, and I'm not doing these in any particular order, my favourite is the Toyota Yaris.
I'm with you
Yes.
there. It's a fabulous little car. Very
So there
clever.
you are. Top Gear audience, if you want to buy a small car, for God's sake, stop doing this.
No,
Think
don't
of
do
what
that.
you're saying about yourself and what you're saying about your nation.
Right, that's enough of that. Now, back in 1980, I was a mere lad with a bedroom to decorate. Now, of course, in those days, there was no changing rooms and no Mediterranean hues. All you could really do was slap a poster on the wall. And what's more, there were only two to choose from. The first one was this one of a lady playing tennis. And the other one was this, the Lamborghini Countach. The early 80s were a troubled time. The miners' strike, John Lennon shot, and the Falklands War. But that was just the stuff on the news. The really important issue of the day was, which was cooler? The Ferrari Boxer or the Lamborghini Countach? Lamborghini had succeeded in dividing the loyalties of pubescent British schoolboys. Fights were breaking out behind bike sheds. People were defacing one another's posters. That was the impact this thing had. Here's how they squared up. Ferrari had absolutely nothing to prove. It had a long history, the race breeding, the pedigree, and it was run by Enzo, a godfather figure with purple ink in his fountain pen. The Boxer had a flat 12 engine and styling by Pininfarina. It was a true thoroughbred. And now the Countach. Oh, by the way, I've never actually driven one of these before. I've been waiting 20 years to pop my Countach cherry. Where the Ferrari was an aristocrat, the Countach was an upstart. Lambo may have done the Miura, but they still weren't quite pucker. So to make up for that, it had to be flashy. Quite simply, it had to be the world's most outrageous supercar. And it was. This wasn't just a car, it was a pin-up. And you might like to know that Countach is a bit of Italian slang. It translates roughly as foie. This is Letchworth. It was the first garden city in the world and the site of the world's first roundabout. A model of English middle-class suburbia. For a long time, it didn't even have a pub. The Countach fits in with all this like a youth with a bad haircut and a can of spray paint. But even here, there was a time in the early 80s when every boy's bedroom would have had a piece of pornography on the wall. A Countach poster. In the Countach Boxer Battle, places like Letchworth were a landslide victory for the Lambo. It just looked so much cooler. Oh sure, more and more cosmetic bits were added during its 18-year life. But so what? This was the 80s. We thought Kevin Keegan's perm was cool. I was always in the Countach camp, and I can tell you, off the top of my head, that this one's an LP400S. It does 180 miles per hour and 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. It also has some of the fattest rear tyres ever fitted to a production car at 345 millimetres. Listen to that! I absolutely knew it would sound like that just by looking at the pictures. So, it looks fantastic and it sounds fantastic, and that's what matters when you're 15 and dreaming. But I'm not 15 anymore, and after an hour at the wheel in 2003, my dream car turns out to be a bit of a nightmare. It never occurred to me, for example, that I'd need a hammer to change gear, or that depressing the clutch would be a lot easier if I got a friend to help me. It's absolutely baking hot in here. Look, I've got the window fully open. And there's also a really alarming smell of petrol. And here's another thing. We're here driving through leafy Hertfordshire, and I'm told it's very pretty. And it looks very pretty through the windscreen, but can't be quite so sure out of the side. And there is a rear view mirror up there, and there is in fact a rear window, but it's very small. It's sort of like watching your television through your letterbox. God in heaven, this is hard work. I'm going to stop for a cup of tea. Right, let's have a quick recap on my dream car. The seat is crippling, the controls are murderous, I'm too hot, I'm deaf, I've been poisoned, I can't see, and I can't park. This is what going to hell in a handcart probably feels like. And it looks so good on the poster. In fact, I wish it had stayed there. I'm absolutely gutted. But you know what, it's not the car's fault, it's mine. I've broken a golden rule. You never, ever meet your childhood heroes. Roger Moore, Lamborghini Countach, Brian Cant. Stick with the memories. They're just better.
So you're a shattered man.
That's my youth gone.
And I've got even worse news for you.
Oh no. Do not tell me that that's a ladyboy.
Her name is Stephen.
Actually, it's even worse than that, because until now I've had a Nobel Peace Prize for parallel parking, and obviously I made a complete hash of it in that. But we have put a camera where the mirror is, and I just want you to be sure that you understand, see, just how difficult that was. Steve, or whatever her name is, could actually be sunbathing naked on here, and, you know, I wouldn't have seen that either.
You wouldn't have a clue. Well, the thing is, James, I can park at Countach.
Can you?
And I've got a couple of cones here, and I'm going to prove it. We're going to put one there, OK? And I'm going to put the other one over here. And I will be able to get that car into this space, no problem at all.
Right.
You don't think so? You don't think so?
This could be a bit of a laugh. So.
Right, I'm in, and you can see the problem. You certainly can't see out of the back. But the extraordinary thing about a Countach is that... Oh, that's a good sound. You can actually drive it while not being in it. And we're off. How about that? This was a technique developed at the Lamborghini factory, which I've modified slightly for use here. I'm not wearing sunglasses. That's the difference. I am in! And that is how you pass a contest.
Now, time for a confession. A confession.
Absolutely. Now, it's time to meet our guest. He's a comedian, he's an actor, and he made his name over here by pretending to be a sort of American country boy from the Deep South. So, please feel free to whoop and fire your guns in the air and develop an unnatural attraction toward your sister. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Hall! How are you? Have a seat. Now, before we get cracking on the whole car business, I don't think anybody here could guess, if we gave them 1,000,000 years, what your first job was.
I worked for the United States Meteorological Service as a hurricane namer.
So your job
Yeah.
was to wait for a hurricane to come
Yeah.
and then give it a name.
Very high stress job. I held the position for 2 years. We really wouldn't get busy until about September. The reason I was fired was for giving them names. Jugs. I called one Jugs. I was trying to give the hurricane names, you know, something. It's not as easy as it sounds, because you've got to study the hurricane, and each one has its own personality, and then you have to attach a name to it that seems to fit the personality, so that people run. You have to fear these things because they're dangerous. So,
what's a fierce name then? Thor?
Yeah, Thor or Killer.
Bush?
Yeah.
Anyway, last week we had Rob Brydon on, who I thought had the worst car history ever. He just owned the worst selection of cars you can imagine.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, this week you've come along and it looks like you've beaten him. Your first car was a Corvair. This was the car that was described in America as unsafe at any speed, or provoked that.
Inspired a book. Yeah.
It inspired a book.
Due to its danger.
And your uncle sold it to you.
My uncle sold it to me. There were beer cans in the back seat, empty, which he called floor chimes. And it's completely asymmetrical, the Corvair, so you never really knew if it was coming or going. Fortunately, mine had bad suspension and would come up the road sideways like a crab, so you could see it coming. And I had a Vega for a while, which is another car which it had some design problems. The bumper was actually beneath the taillights, so the taillights extended over the bumper, and the fuel tank was in the back. So basically, you could reverse and explode, or someone could hit you again.
So how long did it take you to have a pickup truck?
2 weeks ago, I purchased a pickup truck.
What, your first one?
My first new car ever, yeah.
PJ O'Rourke once described the pickup truck as the world's first beer-guided vehicle.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much true. I mean, everybody at the wheel of one is drunk once you get out of the cities.
Well, yeah, that's mandatory. Because I live in Montana, where literally it's not illegal to drive and drink. You can't be drunk, but you can drink and drive. You can also shoot off a pistol.
While driving?
While driving, as long as it's not aimed at anyone. But you have to wear a seatbelt.
Montana dropped the speed. They dropped speed limits.
At one point, they had no speed limit, and now they do have a speed limit again, because somebody moved there. And it's astounding. I've been pulled over in Montana because the policemen were lonely.
I thought you crashed one of your old cars.
I've crashed a number of cars. Yeah.
Well, who took your door mirror off?
That was my fault. That was back when I was about 20 and I was in college at the University of Washington in Seattle, and I had no money, and I clipped the wing mirror of another pickup truck driven by this guy, and he turned out to be a bit of a con artist, and I didn't have any insurance, of course, and I was working for a student newspaper, and so the guy kept sending me bills for about $800 or $900, clearly trying to screw me, you know, and I didn't have any money, so I went up to the linotype machine and I printed up a fake news story saying I died in a horrible car crash. And I forged a letter from my parents saying, please stop torturing us. We lost our son in a car crash several months ago. We don't know who you are, but he's gone, and we'd just like a little peace.
And you faked your own death?
I faked my own death.
Did it work?
About a month later, my parents got a sympathy card from the guy.
You do have good names over there, though.
For cars, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Firebird. Mustang. And this does, I think, help rock and roll guys over there. It does make writing about songs, because when you've got cars like Maestro...
Right.
And Metro... Well, Daddy took the T-Bird away. Daddy took the TR7 away.
Yeah.
It's not going to work, is it? Little Red Chevette.
No, I suppose not.
But could you get British car names? Because you do songs, don't you?
Yes. I've tried to romanticize British cars before. It just didn't work.
Could you try and get the Rover 25 into a song? The 1.4. Don't want to get not the GTR.
Oh, that's important to know, yeah.
A 1.4 from about let's say 92, something like that?
To write the basis of any romantic car song is the first verse describes the car. Second verse puts it into some kind of dangerous situation.
Yeah.
It's a Rover, what is it, a Rover?
Rover 25.
1990.
Well, say 92, something like that.
All right. It's a Rover. Yeah. It's a Rover. It's got a healthy MOT. It's a Rover. It's driven by an OAP. It's a Rover. It's two-wheel drive. Guy behind it is barely alive. And it rolled off the production line in 1992. It was a monster of design. You could hear the pistons throbbing. I mean, the company had some kind of internal management problem. And they rolled it off the track, and it came out a hatchback. It's a Rover. The engine won't turn over. It's a Rover, driven by someone slightly older. It's got a single paint coat. It's been towed so many times it thinks it's a boat. There was an...
Oh, God. How do you do that?
It's just all country song. That was a country song, by the way, in my head.
But it had all the relevant bits about Rovers are driven by people a little older perhaps than anyone else you've ever seen. Anyway, of course, you came down here to drive our Suzuki Liana, our reasonably priced car, around the track. Shall we see how it went on?
All right. Can I just say in defense?
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
The windscreen wipers kept coming on, and you'll see me swerve a lot, and that's because of the windscreen wipers moving back and forth and creating some lateral thrust.
This is a remark. You should get a job in Formula One with excuses like this.
Yeah.
And
I only hope I did better than the other American.
David Soul.
Yes.
1 minute 54. He broke 2 gearboxes when he came because the stick shift confused him.
Yeah.
You were okay. You're used to the stick shift?
Yeah.
You can drive a stick shift car.
I can now.
Let's have a look at your lesson. Wheel spin start. Nice. Big sky here as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's about 50 miles an hour over the American speed limit. Too fast. Too fast.
Room service.
Now, I bet you the Stig told you not to go around. They're too fast again. Look how you're miles away from that.
I'm the king of third gear.
Third gear through here, very brave. Oh, look, there they go. That's a pretty deadpan face and a terrifying soul. Oh, that's so brave because you're going far too fast. Again, through that corner and too slowly around that one, actually. And there we are. Now,
I think I was slowed down by the child safety lock.
no, you've had your excuses, and now we're going to tell you how fast you went. You wanted to beat David Soul at 1 minute 54 seconds.
Right.
So where do you think you came?
If you could turn all those upside down, I'd be ahead of David Soul.
Yep. You did it in 1 minute 54 seconds. Exactly the same as David Soul. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Hall. Fantastic. That was tremendous.
To modified cars, before we move on, we asked you to send in pictures of cars that you or people you know have had a go at modifying. We've got some more. Does anybody want to see them? Yeah. OK. This first one is a Corrado, a VW Corrado. There it is. Have a look at that. Oh! What? Where was he going? Well, he can't see, I suppose. I mean,
no, he doesn't know where he's going with that.
No, clearly not.
It would get you home faster, but I suspect you wouldn't know that you were at home.
No.
You're sitting in there going, I can only see the dipstick
Did he
handle.
fix the engine to the car or the car to the engine?
Now, our search also goes on for the most ludicrous exhaust pipes in Britain, and we've been sent this week a photograph of a Renault Clio. Check that out. So if you've had your dustbin stolen in the last couple of weeks, green Clio, check it out. There's your culprit. Right, May.
Back to Lamborghini, and believe it or not, this is one. It's an LM002 from the 1980s. It's a sort of military Jeep thing, but it has the V12 engine from the Countach. Now, these days, you could get one of these for about £35,000, which sounds like a bargain, and it does look like fun. However, we would urge caution.
Absolutely. When I started in this business writing about cars, I was earning about 40 quid a week. OK? I borrowed one of these, took it into a petrol station to fill it up, £147. And you had to reset the pump halfway through. So you go like, pump stop, you have to go in and pay, then come out and recommence the filling process. And actually, it's no better today. In fact, it's worse, because the tyres are, how much are they?
£550 each.
Each?
Yep. Each.
And if you were to fill this up now, 63, 64 gallon tank, £220 in petrol. Look at that for a face. Unbelievable. And let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever seen a cathedral go round our test track? No. Would you like to see it? Yes. Show it. Here we come, up to Chicago. Look at that Feline! Look, he's going to roll it! He's going to roll it! It looks so comical, in fact, that when he's going around the Hammerhead, which is coming up now, you can actually hear the cameraman burst out laughing at it. Listen. And now you're probably dying to know what its lap time was. Sorry, it ran out of petrol. And we certainly can't afford to refill it due to the unique way the BBC is funded, which is very badly. Now, the problem with this is that it's like the Countach and the Miura. It's yet another car for a 12-year-old bedroom wall.
This, then, is the £117,000 Gallardo, Lamborghini's idea of being sensible. The wild wings and flared wheel arches of yesteryear are gone. So too have the protruding buttresses. And the complex V12 has been replaced by a 5-litre V10, which is almost economical.
And look at this door. Look at that. See, unlike the doors on previous Lamborghinis, it doesn't open outwards and upwards in a scissor dodecahedron fashion like a gull's wing. It's just a door. Inside, things get even more normal. I've got headroom, I've got legroom, I've got air conditioning that actually works. You have to search very hard to find any evidence of Lamboness. But don't worry, because I've found some. The ashtray lid is broken, and although this car has only done 5,000 miles, look at the gear lever. It's been given a certain patina by all those bejewelled Italian fingers. Overall, though, the Gallardo does seem to have cleaned up Lambo's act. They should have called it the Priory. It's easier to drive as well. When you thumped around the track in an old Diablo, it was like bull running in Pamplona, whereas this is more like walking through a field of cows. It's not even slightly scary. Steering's light. When you press the clutch pedal, it's like stepping in some blancmange. And what's more, for the first time ever in a Lamborghini, I can see where I've been. And no prizes for guessing who's garnished it with such a thick veneer of common sense. It was, of course, the Germans. Yep, shock, horror, skid, slide, smoke. Lamborghinis are now made by Audi. Now, I've searched the history books for examples of these two great nations working together in the past, and there really aren't that many. Putting them together is a bit like blending sausages with ice cream, I suppose. In fact, the only time the two nations did work together was in the 1930s, and things didn't turn out well. So, how's it worked this time round? Well, let's see first of all how it compares to the other Ferrari wannabes. There's the Porsche 911 Turbo, the endless thorn in Ferrari's side, and the Aston Martin DB7 Zagato, basically a restyled, power-crazed last hurrah before the DB9 comes along. These cars are very fast. But the Lambo, despite the new one-cowl styling, looks like it's going even faster, even when it's standing still. It's no illusion either. With a 0 to 60 time of 4.3 seconds and a top speed of 192, the Gallardo blitzes the Porsche and the Aston. And with 100 brake horsepower more than you get in a Ferrari 360, it nukes that too. It seems then that the German-Italian alliance has been a success with this car, and we haven't even got to the best bit yet. The handling. This is where a Ferrari 360 gets tricky. Drive too fast round a bend in it, and it turns into a small dog, spinning round your legs and wagging its tail. This is in a different class. This is epic. It's like a big Lotus Elise. This is the first four-wheel drive car I've ever driven that has no understeer at all. It is fantastic. Turn in, oh, that is lightning reactions. It changes direction like a fly. I wanted to hate the Gallardo. I wanted to say that Lambo had sold its soul to the devil and ended up with a glorified Audi TT. But it's wonderful. Except for exactly the same thing that nailed the Bentley Continental in last week's programme. The problem is, they've got rid of the Lamborghini idiocy, but some of the magic has gone as well. Some of the X factor that makes a car special. Let me put it this way. There are many children's stories. Mog, Kipper, Spot, the famous Seven, the Secret Five, Paddington the Pooh, Bob the Tank Engine, Thomas the Builder. But there's only one Harry Potter. There's only one Ferrari too, and this isn't it.
Having thought about this, not much of a tribute to Lamborghini, really, is it, this show?
Why?
Well, if you think about it, I demonstrated that the Miura was deeply flawed.
Yeah.
You hated the Countach, and now you don't like their new car.
No. The thing about this is, is that I do truly believe it's a better car than a Ferrari 360. Right. But when you buy a Ferrari, you're getting so much more than just a car. You're getting that whole kind of golden glow of 50 years of Ferrari ownership.
That's exactly what I was trying to say in that Countach piece. Because a Lamborghini isn't a Ferrari, it has to be ridiculous.
Exactly. What does everybody think? What's the best Lamborghini of them all? Hands up, you got any thoughts? What do you reckon?
Diablo.
The Diablo's the best of them all?
Yep.
That was pre-German?
Yep.
Right, anyone over here got any thoughts on what they think? The what?
Miura.
The Miura?
Miura, yeah.
Miura?
Miura.
Miura. And do you know something quite interesting here, guys? They're all wrong.
I thought that might be coming, Jeremy.
Yeah.
We're back in Jeremy's democracy.
This is the best Lamborghini of them all. Because what you've got here is you've got the kind of Germans building it, making sure that it actually comes out of the factory on time, but you've got Italian engine, Italian four-wheel drive, Italian styling, sprouty things coming out of the back. That, for me, is the perfect Lamborghini. It's the peak. And now, sliding down a bit. Well, let me put it this way. A picnic, okay? If you went, you'd want the Germans to make the hamper so the handles don't fall off, but you'd want the Italians to make the food. Yes? That's what you get with that. It's a German-Italian picnic where the Italians have done what they're good at and the Germans have done what they're good at. With this, the Germans have done the food.
All of that aside, the fact remains, how does the Gallardo do on the track? Now, the Stig has already been out in the Murcielago, so he should have absolutely no trouble with its baby brother.
OK, Stig's ready. And away he goes! Now, track does look pretty wet, but of course the Gallardo has four-wheel drive, so it should be a match for the conditions. Let's see, first corner coming up. Slithering just a little bit. Oh, he has got some understeer actually there, but he's held it beautifully. Inspired by what he knows as the music from the Cadbury's Fruit and Nut advert. And round Chicago, little wobble there. Yes, he's got the power down beautifully now, and he's coming into the hammerhead. Will this catch it out? Yes, it has caught it out, but he's held it well. Good job. Fresh Stig. And here we go. Gallardo has the optional flappy paddle gear shift, which is claimed to be faster on a track. The manual gearbox I drove earlier certainly looks quick down there. Ooh, and very quick through there. Now, amazingly, over the first half of the lap, the Gallardo was quicker than the Porsche GT3's time, also in the wet. Can it beat a 911 to the end? Can it? Ooh, he's coming around Gambon. Absolutely beautifully online. You want to know how fast that was?
Oh, yes. Go on.
This is the GT3, similar conditions, 1 minute 27.2. Now, we thought that was quick.
It's a fabulous car, yeah, very
127.2. This has just done it in 125.8. Whoa! That is unbelievable. Now, next week we have another two-seater four-wheel drive car. It is, in fact, a Toyota pickup truck. And what we do to it defies belief. Do please tune in. See you then. Good night.